Welcome to the World Aviation Festival from me, John Strickland. I'm delighted to be joined today by Joseph Radi, CEO of Wizz Air. So, Joe, welcome to World Aviation Festival.
Thank you, John.
Let's start off with a few of the challenging things. We've met many times over the years and it's all been exciting, positive growth stories, but we're really in a period that's unsettled in every way we can imagine, and Wizz Air is not untouched by that. The biggest one perhaps that's on your plate right now is the Pratt & Whitney GTF engine challenge. There's a technical issue about engine, meaning that aircraft are grounded all over the world, and you have, I think, 40 or so aircraft currently grounded. It's perhaps a pointless question to say how big a headache is that, but how are you managing that, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that if you look at our challenges, I would say that maybe I would classify them in three different categories. So one around geopolitics, and we are disproportionately affected by that. I mean, we used to be the largest airline in Ukraine. We are the largest international carrier to Israel, and you see what is happening there. And that made, those events made significant impacts on our business. But you kind of learn how to deal with that. You know, you learn how you reallocate capacity and kind of destabilize your business on that basis. The second category is what you mentioned, is around the wobbling nature of the supply chain, which seems like never ending, and probably we are now seeing a new phenomenon. So the supply chain environment is no longer as benign as it used to be. And the third challenge, effectively, is that how do you translate all of that into your operating model? Because you cannot rely on perfection delivered by others, and you have to be still intact with your consumers, and you have to make sure that you properly operate the airline in a different context of life and in a changing operational environment. So I would say that you know those three matters have profound impacts on the company. So back to Pratt & Whitney, which is probably the single biggest issue what we are facing at the moment. Interestingly, our fleet has been growing actually fairly dramatically, roughly around 20% a year, but our capacity is flat as we speak year on year, which means that 20% of our capacity is on the ground due to the GTF engine inspections. I mean, that's a big issue because it's not just an issue of managing capacity, but just think about this, that you know, we had to invest a lot into more spare engines. We had to extend older aircraft operations in order to maintain capacity in the market, not to give that capacity over to your competitors. Even we had to take some wet lease from the market, which is very inefficient and economically punitive. We have to carry some slacks and unproductivity in the organization to make sure that once we are ramping back up, that we have the resources available. So lots of issues you have to deal with beyond just the engine being inspected and aircraft on the ground. And I think the learning from our perspective is that, I mean, simply we have to have an adaptive mindset. We have to make sure that, you know, whatever happens, we continue to adapt, and you build your operating model for resilience. I mean, we used to be building our operating model in the past for perfection. That's not good enough, and that doesn't work in the current environment. Yeah. So for example, if we had 12 hours available to us to fly the crew, we were scheduling that crew probably for 11 hours 55. Now that doesn't work in the current environment. So you have to build that and create that level of resilience that makes you still a good operating entity.
And just briefly again on the engine, the challenge as well is it's not a quick fix, is it? Each engine, from what I've been reading, it's up to about a year for each engine to be repaired, and they don't have spares to hand over to you while those repairs are going on, hence the groundings.
Yeah, I would say that the GTF issue is a compression of two different problems. One is that the GTF is a breakthrough technology, and like every breakthrough technology has its own childhood diseases. So you kind of learn how you operate the engine, that you know that doesn't work the way it was intended, that breaks earlier than intended, etc. So you have those issues, but that would happen to any new technology. And on top of that, Pratt & Whitney found that they had some contaminated materials called the powdered metal used in molding certain parts of the engines that need to be replaced. So those two issues compounded and overlapping at the same time create really the problem, because the number of shop visits and technical inspections required simply just overwhelm the system, the entire system. It overwhelms their production, it overwhelms their shop capacity, their organizational capacity, availability of engineers, etc., etc. And as a result, we used to be having like around 70 days wing to wing when an engine went to a shop, and that 70 days day period became more like 320 days nowadays. I think this is a cycle, so we just need to go through this cycle. Probably that's going to drag us into the current situation for another 2.5 years. Probably have bottomed out, but improvement is going to be incredibly slow and gradual from here. So I think you just have to breathe normally and move through it.
Absolutely. And you talked about geopolitics, so running along with this big engine problem, you described already the situation, Israel, Gaza, Ukraine, other touch points, I suppose, that are risky from a security point of view. You've manipulated the capacity, moved it around, but you're still planning enormous growth in the years ahead. You have this slogan, Wizz 500. It's slipped back slightly, hasn't it? You'll have around about 500 aircraft by 2032, maybe a couple of years later than planned.
Yeah, but this is mainly due to what we are seeing in the supply chain issues on the OEM side, that simply no OEM is able to build their aircraft in line with their commitments to the markets. Everything is getting shifted, everything is getting delayed and later delivered. So I think this is just the new reality of the supply chain performance. But from a market standpoint, actually we feel very comfortable with the market opportunities what we have. So if I add up all kind of the geopolitical zones, if you wish, I mean, this is not more than probably 15% of our business. But coming out of COVID, we made a number of strategic decisions. We basically reset our footprint, our network footprint. So invested into brand new markets like London Gatwick, like Italy, like Albania, setting up an airline in Abu Dhabi, Wizz Air Abu Dhabi. So simply we just expanded our market footprint dramatically with the view that extended footprint will deliver us new layers of growth opportunities. So this is more like hedging our bets, if you want to put it that way. But we are still sticking to the core strategy of Central and Eastern Europe, and we think Central and Eastern Europe is a great market that will continue to give us the growth opportunities we need for the business. Economies are converging, GDPs are growing, and they translate into disproportionate airline growth relative to mature markets like Western Europe. So we feel actually very comfortable with our ability to take advantage of this expanded footprint and the growth opportunities coming from our core markets.
I mean, as you said, CEE really is the birthplace of Wizz. It's that VFR, friends and relations traffic, worker traffic going east-west. It's still very substantial. You described the rationale of diversification of Western Europe, which is more, I suppose, holiday people north-south, especially from the UK to places like Mediterranean. But the Gulf, whether it's Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia, which we've obviously got to touch on, is something very different. I mean, both in culture, the culture of the people, the culture of governments, and the nature of the markets. How are you finding it so far? Because Abu Dhabi is a bit old. Is Abu Dhabi, what, 2-3 years now?
Yeah,
and Saudi Arabia is about a year?
So, well, there's a big difference between Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi. In Abu Dhabi, we have an airline presence, so we have a local airline. Saudi Arabia is an inbound market, it's a destination market there. So with regard to Abu Dhabi, I think, yes, there are differences, but also there are lots of universal features of our business. The consumer is the same. The consumer wants to fly hassle-free, efficient, cheap, doesn't want to be ripped off, etc. So there is no difference whether you are in Europe, in the United States, or in the Middle East, or the Gulf, or wherever you are. I mean, hot and harsh is a different operating environment versus benign European four-season operation. So that's certainly a learning. In terms of cultural differences, I mean, I must say that we have an extremely well-working relationship with our local investment partner. That is the investment arm of the government, ADQ. That's very, very collaborative, and I don't think that is creating any strains in the system. Of course, there is a difference with regard to the openness of the market. Abu Dhabi tends to be more subject to bilateral restrictions vis-à-vis the European Union, which is a completely free and open market. So there are nuances of differences, but our operating model is basically seamless across geographies. So we are operating the same aircraft, the same brand, same reservation system, same seats, same everything. So you as a consumer wouldn't really notice the difference whether you are sitting on a Wizz Air UK airplane or a Wizz Air Abu Dhabi airplane.
And Joe, we're unfortunately too short of time to ask many questions I'd like to ask you today. One last quick question. You're getting the Airbus A321 XLR into the fleet. Hopefully by late next year you'll be flying that, so you'll start really long flights from Gatwick to Saudi, from Italy to Abu Dhabi. I think you've said already in interviews that you expect passenger acceptance, but it is high density seating. And I've been on Wizz Air very comfortably from a European point for a couple of hours, but do you really think there are going to be enough people who will sit on those slimline seats for 8 hours? What if so, what would drive them to do that?
Look, I mean, personally I think that mid-range flying is also getting increasingly commoditized. If there is a value proposition available to the consumer will trade economic value for comfort. And to be honest, I mean, looking at our seats are not inferior to economy class seats of other carriers. Yes, it's going to be 8 hours. I mean, but people can walk around inside the aircraft. I mean, I've been taking a number of our mid-range flights from Europe to the Middle East, for example, flying 4, 5, 6 hours. I mean, people tend to be very comfortable. They enjoy themselves, and of course, they enjoy the value what they get out of the transaction.
And I guess, as you said, some of the customers going for things like Hajj and Umrah, they have a prime motivation to go for those religious reasons. But this allows them to go.
Yes, I mean that's a significant flow. But even I would say that if I look at leisure flows, let's say between the UAE and Europe, I mean already today we are flying 5, 6 hours,
yes.
And people are very comfortable by taking their entire families. They are already enjoying their holidays on the plane. They haven't even arrived to their destination, but the party has started. So I don't think there is a fundamental issue there. And to be honest, looking at the forward sales on these long routes we've just announced, I mean, a lot better than expected. A lot better than what I expected.
Interesting. Well, I was involved with Saudi Arabia a long time ago in my career, so I'm watching this with great interest. So for now, zsef, CEO of Wizz Air, thanks a lot for your time at World Aviation Festival.
Thank you, John.
Thanks a lot.